Okay, perfect. Well, welcome to the San Francisco School of Copywriting Bootcamp. This is a direct response class, and just before we dig into today's topic and today's work, what I want to do is just sort of give you the big picture overview. I'm going to cover a lot of content today, but it's kind of general content, overview content that we'll use throughout the course. And you'll see as we progress through the weeks, we will get into specifics of the various topics. But today I want to give you the big picture overview. And let's see, I have some noise here, so let me just see if I can go to. I'm going to just ask everyone to mute themselves if you can. So anyway, we're going to cover the big picture pieces of copywriting today. There will be an assignment today, and there's an assignment every week. And I actually think it's one of the best benefits of this class is that we'll interact personally. You'll send me your work, and I'll critique it, make comments on it. We can work on it all throughout the course. So if you've got something you're working on currently, whether it's writing your own website or sales letters, ads, anything that you're working on, or if you're doing something for a client and it's more relevant for you, if it's more relevant for you to work on something that's real, I always think it's more relevant, but it's also sometimes more helpful, then we can certainly do that. And if you don't have something like that, there'll be an assignment each time so that we can work on the the assignments, and you can learn by doing that. And I really think it's the best part of this particular course is the hands-on critiquing and a chance or opportunity to improve your copy. I think it really just makes a world of difference. And so just a little bit of housekeeping real quick. So what will happen is every week at this time, so it's 11:30 Pacific time, every Wednesday, we will do a Q&A. The content will be posted before that. So we'll post the content, I guess, on a Tuesday, actually, and you'll have a chance to look at it and bring any questions that you have, questions on the specific copy topics that we're covering. It can be even questions on the specific critiques that I've done for you, or the fine points, or questions about why something works better than another thing. Whatever it is that you've got, bring it. We'll handle those here live. But I think you get more out of it if we don't teach the content live, because it's more valuable to have the interaction. So we'll do that every week, and then with the video that's posted each week, there also will be notes so that you'll have the reference. It's essentially the compiled download of all the content of the videos. So, excuse me. With that, let's get underway. So, first of all, the question I get asked a lot is can anybody learn copywriting? And I believe that you can. I think it's probably one of the last really well-paying professions that you can break into without having an advanced degree. There are some copywriting courses like this one that you can take, and in fact, we'll give you a certificate at the end of this course that you can use. But excuse me, I don't think there's probably a copywriting program that anybody expects you to have graduated from in order to write good copy. Usually what you do is you show your chops by having copy that you've written. And so I really do think anyone can master this skill. It's very systematic and formulaic. It's writing, but it's not like writing the great American novel. There's a system that you follow, and we'll actually be running through some of the things in that system today. And what I want to encourage you is to practice. Excuse me, let me have a sip of tea. My voice seems a little rusty. I want to encourage you to practice and to be patient with yourself. You'll be amazed, say you're just starting today, and I know some people have some experience, some don't have any experience, but if you start writing today and you look at your copy a year from now, you'll be blown away by how much you've improved, particularly, if you practice on a regular basis. And I was going to ask you, if you would, whoever just joined us, please mute your phone to keep out background noise, although you're welcome to unmute and jump in with questions at any time. And if you're not able to mute, let's see, I think we lost the background noise. Maybe I should mute the call. No, that seems to have done it. So, be patient with yourself, practice, know that you will get better. It's like anything else that you're new at. You need to be willing to have a beginner's mind and keep an open mind, and just keep keep on writing and be open to critique and improvement. So critique being not criticism, but assistance. And copy other people that you like. You know, you don't have to copy their words verbatim, but start paying attention to things that you like and create. Every copywriter has a swipe file where you can go for inspiration and ideas. One of the techniques that is often used is to literally copy out by hand, not typing, mind you, but copying out by hand a piece of copy that you like. There's something that happens when you connect your hand to paper in your brain, writing it out, that gives you a sense of the structure and some of the psychology behind the copy. And I don't think it's necessarily relevant here, just reading over everyone's profiles, this outsourcing piece, but it's something that I recommend to people who are business owners. You know, a lot of people take this course to see, you know, how is good copy constructed, and how will I know it when I run into it? So if I'm hiring somebody to write it for me, I'll know what it is. And so I always recommend people to be careful and outsource what you are not good at, and focus on what you are good at. And that's probably good advice in any endeavor, but I don't think it's necessarily as relevant today as it is some other time. So we'll just run right by that. So good copy, you know good copy when you read it. Sometimes if you're reading copy that's mediocre, you're not sure if it's good or not. But when you have copy that you just can't pull yourself away from, it reads like a train rolling down the tracks. You can feel the momentum and you can feel the excitement. And this isn't just in other people's copy. It will be in your copy too. That often doesn't come in the writing process, and it sometimes doesn't come immediately after reading it. And it's one of the reasons that copy really needs to sit and season, because you need mentally to disengage from it and be able to come back to it to make improvements. Because when you're in the thick of it, it's very hard to see it as an entire piece and to see it without wanting to, change this or change that. But it's very important in the process to be able to write it, step away from it, and come back to it and get a sense of it almost as an outsider. And pay attention as you read copy, while you're taking this course, and you'll find the places where I think of it kind of like stopping and stumbling. It's almost like catching your toe on something and tripping over it. And your mind does that mentally. It's something that either just doesn't fit, it doesn't flow, it doesn't make sense. That's a real impediment to good copy, because what you want to do, and especially when you're writing marketing copy, is you don't want people to turn away. You want them to be drawn in, and you want them to keep reading and keep reading and keep reading. And any place there's a mental stumbling block and you lose their attention, you can lose their attention forever and risk losing their interest. And so you want to create a piece of copy that people want to read through and they won't put down. And it's very interesting. I find often when I go back, something that I thought just was so good and made so much sense, and sometimes it's just something really nice that I think is maybe more clever than it is suitable. I can cut that whole paragraph out, and suddenly the thing tightens up and it reads much cleaner and clearer. And so it's very important, not to get too attached to your darlings, as we say. The things that you love and they sound nice, but they may not be in service to your end goal. And we'll be talking more about what that end goal is. So good copy, and remember here, we're always talking about direct response marketing copy. So when I make a blanket statement like good copy, that's what I'm talking about specifically. It solves problems, or it addresses the fulfillment of desires. So one of the things that's always true, and you know what, let me interrupt myself for a second here, because I am hearing some background noise, and I want to figure out here how I can. Okay.
All attendees are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
Okay, so I've got everyone muted. If you want to jump, okay, everyone's muted. If you've got a question, actually, just type it in the chat box there on the screen, and I'll peek there every once in a while, and that way I'll, feel free to interrupt or pop a question in there. If I don't get to it during, I'll get to it after. So here's the thing: when your audience understands that you really get them, that's when they start listening to your solution. So, when you're writing something about, say, about somebody's problem or the pain they're experiencing, and they're nodding their head up and down and going, yeah, that's how I feel, exactly. That's what I think. How do they know that? Who is this? Who's writing this? When you can give people, your readers, your audience, that experience, then what happens is they tend to, once they understand that you get them, they tend to trust what comes next, which is your solution. Because if you really understand them, then chances are good that the solution you provide really understands them as well. In other words, solves their problem. And so that's a very important thing that we will cover over and over and over again. And if there's one thing that I'd like you to walk away with from this entire course, it's that you are always writing to one person, and you're writing to, it's usually you're writing to that person's pain. Talk about that, the pain versus pleasure here in a little while, and why you would write to one or the other. But that's the key thing that you want to learn, is that people are motivated by their own self-interest. We all are. It's the filter that we see through. And all good copy should start by addressing the reader or the target audience. Any copy that starts off with what I call the million years experience, welcome to such and such a firm. Between us, we have 84 years experience doing this, this, and that. It's a big who cares. I want to know, what you do for me, and then I want to know about who you are and what your experience is. It's not that it's unimportant, but everything outward facing to your audience should be about your audience first and foremost. So with that in mind, you want to stay focused on the prospect and get a clear picture of them in your mind. You want to know, who is this person? This is the most important thing that you need to do before you start writing anything. And sometimes this isn't these factors aren't relevant. But how old are they? What gender are they? Are you writing to men? Are you writing to women? Are you writing to both? Are you writing to a young audience, an older audience, somewhere in between? What kind of lifestyle do they have? What are their preferences? Down to the details of, what do they watch? What do they read? Where do they go out? What do they do? Anything that helps make this person real to you so that you know who you're writing to is really helpful for you, because what you want to do is have that person in your mind's eye. Really sharp copy and really focused copy writes to one person. And you're imagining that person. You're literally imagining them in your mind. And you want to answer the questions, what do they long for and what do they fear? So this is the thing I mentioned a moment ago. It's the fear or the desire. And so basically, as human beings, we have two motivating drivers. We do things to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. And we are much better at delaying pleasure, delaying gratification. And we've all said it and we've all heard it. It's, I will do that when, fill in the blank. I lose weight. I have more money. I'm older. I'm retired. I'm whatever it is. We have a lot of mechanisms for delaying pleasure. But if we're in pain, chances are we're open to a solution, because we don't like living in pain. We can defer pleasure, but we want to avoid pain. And so that's why so much good marketing addresses the pain. Now, I want you to understand this isn't manipulated or made up. We're not trying to put people in pain, and we're not trying to manipulate or prey on their pain. What we're trying to do is make them see that we understand their pain, because remember, if we can help show them that we understand, and I'm going to give you some examples here so this snaps into focus, that we understand what they're feeling, then they start to identify, and we're hitting them in that very important filter called the self, and they start to identify, and they wanted to know more about what we can do for them. So what keeps them awake at night, and so this taps into the problem that they have that you solve. And one thing that I hear a lot from people is sales is always a word or a concept that makes people uneasy, and they think that sales is about manipulation and about getting people to do something or buy something that they don't want, either to do or to buy. And in truth, when it's done well and when it's done ethically, perhaps, what it really is about solving problems. Someone has a problem, you have a solution. It's bringing those two things together so that somebody knows that the solution to their problem exists and that you are the one that has that solution. So you want to picture that one person in your mind's eye. So if you're, one of the things we're going to talk about as a possible assignment this week is writing an anti-aging piece. So in the example of writing an anti-aging piece, who would you have in mind? Who would care about anti-aging? Well, obviously someone that's aging. So maybe it's somebody middle-aged or older. Can you picture someone that you know and keep that person in your mind and write as if you're writing to them? And remember, there's only one person, whether you're writing a sales letter or a web page or an ad, there's only one person reading it at a time. And we tend to think in terms of the global audience, right? All of these people who are getting it, all of you may have seen this and some of you may have, but some of you aren't reading it and all of you aren't reading it. So if I say, some of you listening to me present this may think, well, that's correct, but it's much more powerful if I say, you may think, because now I'm talking to you, and you sit up and pay a little more attention. And that's true in everything you write. And it's one of the biggest, challenges, I guess, that I see people have is that they find it very difficult to write just to one person instead of a larger audience. So that's why it's so helpful to picture this one person in your mind's eye, because sure, if you're trying to, expose people to your business or your service or your product, you want a whole lot of people to be reading it, but they're reading it one at a time, and that's where it's going to strike home the best is if it's clear to them that you're writing just to them. So anytime you start a piece, and again, this could be a website, it could be a sales letter, it could be an ad, it could even be, a brochure, a white paper, or an ebook. You want to start with your big idea. And the big idea is defined differently by different people, but it basically boils down to, what's the one thing that you want them to walk away with? And your answer to that might be, to make a decision. You want them to, to buy something or to do something. But what's the one thing that you want them to know about what you offer? And so, and it may turn out that it's multiple things. You may have several things. Probably you're not going to cover them all at once, but you may start with several things. You don't have to know necessarily. Sometimes you do, but you don't have to know exactly what that thing is. And I think that's important because sometimes it's hard to get started if you don't know what that thing is. But if you don't know what the thing is and you get started, the thing or the idea evolves. And so it's important to just get started somewhere. And everyone has a different process for this. But this is the most challenging thing for many people. I kind of think of it like there's all this, like these clouds or things floating above you, and you need to bring them all down through a funnel, through this little pointy end, and distill it into several ideas. And that process isn't nice and neat necessarily. You may be pulling a cloud from here and a cloud from there, and working with each of them, and then realizing this one works and this one doesn't. So it's a process. Sometimes the process gets sharper and more focused as you get better at it, and sometimes, you'll be dealing with something that just feels like a big mystery, and you just have to get in somewhere and let it sort of evolve. And that may sound esoteric, but it's designed really more to let you off the hook and let you get started without knowing exactly where you're going, because you won't always. And so it's good to start with a headline or lead, because the idea and the headline, obviously you know what a headline is. The lead is typically the first paragraph or sometimes the first sentence, depending on how long the piece is. And so what you want to do is in that headline or lead, examine and explain what your big idea is. So if you don't know what that is, just start on the body. And I'm going to give you some ideas about how to do that. But just to get started capturing some of the concepts, and sometimes that will distill into what it is that you want to say. And one of the ways to do this, and this is to create your bullet points. So what are the key bullet points about your topic? So let's use anti-aging again. What are the features and what are the benefits of this product? What is important for somebody to know? What differentiates the product? Anywhere that you can start by just laying out some of the concepts. I like the index card method, and that's literally, taking little index cards and writing an idea on each one, maybe writing a feature on each one or a benefit, maybe some of the concepts that you want to get across. what's nice about having them, actually on paper instead of on a monitor in front of you is you can look at them and you can rearrange them. And sometimes as you create the piece, it helps to, put them in order or put them in a different order or see what fits or what doesn't fit. It may sound odd, but it really, really works as a good creative process. So it's something you might want to try. Everyone sort of evolves their own process over time. I still really like that one. Keep a little stack of index cards and big magic markers on my coffee table in my office, and I often start projects that way. And when you do that, you want to come up with come up with 4 to 6 key reasons. Whether or not you use them later, it helps you to sort out what's important and what isn't. And you always want to bring in the unique selling proposition. So you can filter all of these questions and all of these bulleted items through the filter of why should I buy from you instead of your competitor? Sometimes it's called the value proposition or the unique selling proposition or USP. But it's what sets you, and I'll say you here, or the product or the service, what sets you apart from everybody else. And so that's the message that we want to deliver. So if there are 25 anti-aging products, why should I buy this one? And there can be a lot of reasons why, and it might be the product itself, and it might be the offer you're making. It might be the guarantee that you're offering with the product. We'll talk about that as we move through this. And I told you this was going to be a lot of pieces. This is a big brain dump, and we'll work on all of these over the week so that they all come together and make sense in the different media that we're going to talk about. So you want to create a big promise. What will somebody get? And that's often the headline or the lead. And copywriters will tell you that you should be able to tell the whole story in the headline. And it's a challenge. How do you tell the whole story? Do you want to just bring them in so they learn the rest of the story? It's good if you can tell your whole story. And the way that you tell your whole story is what will happen. What's the big benefit that they're going to get? And then you go on and you justify it and explain it so that it actually makes sense and is believable. But you're creating that big promise. Again, that's your big idea. And you want to make sure that you present the benefits of all of the features that you describe for your product. And I'll give you some examples of how to differentiate benefits and features here in a little bit. It's another one of those stumbling blocks for people, and they're often surprised. Even when you understand it, you find that you're making a list of features or you're describing all the features. So you think of the features is what the product does, and the benefits are what the product does for the end user. And remember, if we're tapping into their emotion and into their psychology, what they care about is what it's going to do for them. So you may have this anti-aging serum that has some kind of magic X factor in it, and that's all good, and it's mysterious, and it adds to its intrigue. But at the end of the day, what does somebody care about? They care that they're going to look younger. And there are things that people are concerned about that have to do with aging. So how do we fix those things? And so you want to make sure you present the benefits and features, and we'll go into some detail on that. But first I want to give you some examples. And these are some examples from 2 sales letters that I wrote. One is a number of years ago now. It's probably 3 or 4 years ago. And another one was just this past summer. But they both pulled really, really well, which is why I'm using them as examples. So this started here. This was a sales letter that went out. It was for a video product that was geared toward corporate execs to tell them that they could take their skills that they built in their corporate careers and translate them into entrepreneurship and build their own business. And so there were 3 choices of headlines, and the American dream has changed. Have you, excuse me, ended up being the one that got chosen. The other ones were get free from corporate bondage or bust out of the corporate shackles but keep the income benefits and perks. And so this is how it started, and this is an example of grabbing people by their self-interest. Dear name, does this description fit you? You have a healthy 6-figure income and some enviable perks and benefits. You've paid your dues in late meetings and long hours, unrealistic expectations, lost sleep, crappy airport meals, missed family events. Maybe you've compromised your health. So there, in probably less than 50 words, we've hit them with a lot of things that are probably issues for them, like late meetings, long hours, travel, all of these things that may be problems for them. And the reason that we do that is so that, again, we want people nodding their head up and down, saying, that's true, that's me. So now we've identified them, and now they know that they're the audience. And if any of this speaks to them in that very short lead, then what they're going to do, we hope, is to continue reading because they want to know more about themselves. So I won't read all of this, but you'll have this in the notes and in the recording. But just to give you an idea, so it starts, it's a harsh reality check, but the days of working for one company and trading your loyalty for their beneficence are gone, over, finished, a relic of a bygone era. These days everyone is replaceable and their jobs outsourceable from the C-suite to the factory floor. So what we're doing here is taking it a step further to make them feel their pain. So yeah, they have all those things, they're losing sleep, they're eating crappy airport meals, all of that, and now we add a little bit more to, on top of the pile, because not only are you dealing with all of that, but you could get let go any day. So you don't even like it, but you're also at risk or threatened by losing the thing you don't love but you need. And then we go on and say, tell them a little bit more about people getting replaced. Corporate employees looking over their shoulder for the worker over 40. There's always a chance of being tossed on the scrap heap while they replace you with someone half your age with twice your energy that works for half your pay. So again, they're thinking about, oh yeah, that happened, to so-and-so over in X department. And then what we tell them, and it's in a bold, so it's a subhead again, is you can translate your skills and knowledge base into a lucrative business. I call it the independent executive lifestyle. Great income, ultimate freedom. Imagine feeling energized when you put your feet on the floor in the morning, excited to take on the day instead of worn out before you even brush your teeth. You look forward to what's next, challenges included, because they're yours to solve on your terms for your reward. So what we've done is we've taken all their problems and we've, heaped them on their shoulders so that they're feeling slumped down and, little and feeling all the pain of all these problems they have in their corporate gig, and then we're saying, but wait, there's something else you can do with this that's going to make you feel really good. So we're giving them the pain, and we're giving them the we're giving them the pleasure. Here's another one, and again, you can have the whole letter if you'd like it, or you'll have those details anyway in your notes. So this is something that was just from this past summer. And this is for an Australian company who had a really interesting franchise business that they were selling. And we did a letter we did a series of 3 letters to attract franchisees. And this letter sold, I think, 23. It's either 23 or 24 $35,000 franchises. The letter series, and they were quite pleased. In fact, they were blown away. And so the headline was, earn a minimum of $50,000 a year with the potential of $150,000 plus in a zero-risk professional business you own. And so what that headline is attempting to do is tell the entire story. So and give them the big benefit. So now the letter went on to be 5 pages long to talk about all the problems. So we start out, do you long to be in control of your days and income? Do one of these describe you? You've been made redundant, downsized, effectively thrown out on the scrap heap. This was geared, by the way, toward people who weren't working anymore. You're retired and missing the personal and financial rewards of work. You dream of work that's rewarding personally and financially and would take the leap if there were a guarantee of success. So this was a series of 3 letters, and interestingly, when you do a series like that, and a series tends to work really well, it doesn't have to be a fresh idea every time. It's actually better if it's a twist on the same idea, or a lot of the similar information may be presented in different language and maybe in a different order, but the traditional wisdom says people need to hear a message 7 to 9 times before they take action. And so I think the instinct as a copywriter at first is, well, these have to all be, original, fresh, and compelling. Well, they do need to be fresh and compelling, but they don't necessarily need to be original. You can take the ideas and, all of the benefits and features that you've sussed out to start the project and just present them a little bit differently and get really good results. So let's talk a little bit more about these specifics and drill down into this benefits versus features. So if we take this anti-aging product, so the first question you ask is, what do people fear? What's the scary thing? Why would someone want an anti-aging product? So you might make a list of, less energy. They have less energy. As you age, you have less energy. You may feel or really be less attractive, and so you feel less desirable. Maybe you're less employable. People are worried about being less sexually desirable or having less sex, which often is referred to as romance, not sex. Losing confidence, and so all of the things, disease processes, all of the things that go with aging, some of which you may address and some of which you may not, but you may sit down and make a list of all of the things that people are up against or might fear in relation to aging. So then you list the features. What would happen? Imagine here we're talking. It doesn't really matter. It could be something you apply topically. It could be something you take internally. But what would a benefit of something, an anti-aging product be? You might look better. You'd feel better. Maybe it's easy to use. Maybe it gives quick results, or it has a revolutionary technology or a new ingredient that was recently discovered or recently become available. So it's, we talked earlier about unique selling proposition. If I've got a revolutionary technology or an ingredient no one else has yet, then that's a kind of feature that we want to give a benefit to. So those things are something to pay attention to. Maybe it's got a great price point. Maybe there's something really similar on the market that sells for $100 and this costs $50, and it's every bit as good. And I might spend my piece defending why it's every bit as good and talking about, maybe not naming the product by name, but talking about everything it does and why we do it equally well for less. So what would be the benefits of some of those features? So if you look better, then you might be more attractive, and you might improve your confidence. If you feel better, you can do more. If it's easy to use, then there's no hassle. It's not time consuming. What are things that people resist? We want everything to be quick and easy and fast. So those are always things, as funny as they may sound, using words like that, easy, simple, quick results, it makes a difference because it's something that, that's sort of an overarching concept that we all want in our culture, in our society. And it's not just our culture or society, but it makes a difference. It has a psychological impact because we want things to be easy and quick. We don't want to work hard for them. You don't want your copy to show up sounding heavy and full of work. Maybe there's a revolutionary technology. What would the benefit of that be? Think about that. What could be, if you can think of anything immediately, type it in. What's the benefit of revolutionary technology? And a price point, how to sell. Do you sell something high or low? A price point, there's cachet to paying more for something, or if something costs more, it might be better. So it's not always the best benefit that something's inexpensive. So nobody typed anything in, but revolutionary technology, a benefit might be, being cutting edge, having something no one else has, being ahead of the pack. It appeals to people's ego. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter as long as it's true and it's real and it works. It doesn't matter, what that one thing is. So then you narrow it down and you think, well, what's the most compelling of these factors? And honestly, sometimes you don't know. That's why the 3 rules of marketing are test, test, and test. You don't know. And another challenge that we all have is mistaking ourselves for our market. Thinking that everyone thinks like we do and that what we like, they'll like, and you don't know. And so sometimes you have to test to find out, and sometimes, you have the demographic information that tells you what people are most afraid of. And based on what your product does, it addresses, certain issues maybe in a hierarchy of importance, and you can use those. So the headline, remember, wants to tell the whole story to the extent that it can, and so you want to write a headline that grabs their attention, avoiding being cute or clever to grab attention. It should say something or mean something. cute and clever grabs attention, but it doesn't usually keep attention. And you'll see, as in subsequent modules, we'll go through some ads, and primarily ads because they're easy to suss out and assess. But you'll see, where the headlines work and where they don't, and where cute and clever headlines may get your interest for a second, but they don't encourage you to take any action. And I just digress for a second to say, part of the point of direct response, and the reason we call it direct response, emphasis on the word response, is that there's always what we call a CTA, or call to action. If you have marketing that doesn't ask people to do something, there's no way that it's measurable. And direct response calls for marketing to be measurable, so that we know when something's working for us or not. And also, encouraging people to take action usually gets that result, and people take action, so we actually get response, and the marketing becomes more effective. So back to the headline here, and here are just some examples you can use to fill in if you take on the anti-aging assignment this week as opposed to something else. Look younger and what? Have more energy so that. Have more vibrant, better skin tone, less joint pain, etc., so that. And using the phrase "so that" is a really good way to begin to tease out features from benefits. It does this so that, and then so that what? So that something happens, and that's the benefit that you get. And that's often a good way to think of it for yourself, so that you can tease the features out of the benefits, and you can challenge yourself and ask yourself whether you're really describing features or you're describing benefits. And so that we know that if we're describing benefits, it comes back to this underlying concept that we're speaking to their pain and identifying what is troubling them that will cause them to use our product or service. So you can lay out the negative, or you can lay out the positive. And laying out the negative is, painting the picture of fear and disappointment. What's going to happen if things continue the way they are. And the positive is what are things going to look like if you can change those things. And so it's a fine balance, because I'm telling you, you want to hit their pain points, because if you don't hit their pain points, then they're not open psychologically or emotionally to identify with the solution. So you want to make sure that it's sort of like, it's like the key in the lock. I mean, if the door's locked, you can't get in. And so we have to, the key in the lock is identifying what the problem is. But that doesn't mean we can't walk through the door now and talk about how great life is going to be on the other side of the door. But you want to make sure that, you create the identity with the problem. And so in the formula, you're painting a picture of what it looks like, then you're painting a further picture of what it can look like, and then you're providing a solution. So we've talked about some of the issues or the fears that people have about aging, and then we can talk about, well, what would it feel like to wake up feeling rested? What would it feel like to look 10 years younger and feel more confident? Well, if you use XYZ product, here's what it can do for you, and now we go into offer proof, and here's why. Because anybody can say, oh yeah, eat Wheaties and you're gonna be able to play basketball. Well, it's like, your sophisticated audience is going to say, yeah, right, prove it to me. And so what you do is you offer proof, and there's a lot of ways that you can offer proof. And then what you do is you remove the obstacle to buy. And because people experience what I call the pendulum effect. So what happens is, and think about how this has happened for you. You read something over, and it sounds great, and you really want it. Or you see an ad, or whatever media it's delivered in, you think, boy, this would be really great. I would love to have this. And then what starts to happen is you start to think, well, I don't know, will it really work? Is it really worth the money? Should I mean, the pendulum is all the way to the left. I'm holding my hand all the way up here to the left, and then there's no place for the pendulum to go except swing to the other direction, which is to start to doubt and come up with all the reasons why you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't take this action. You shouldn't buy the product or service. And so what you want to do is know that that's going to happen and step in and allay their fears. So we'll talk about that in a second. I want to just give you some details about providing proof. Now, if there's ever a way to provide scientific proof or to reference scientific studies, those work very well. People like science, they like facts, or they like to at least know that there are scientific facts behind something. It gives people a certain comfort and confidence. But there's a lot of ways to do it. Testimonials work great. We like knowing that other people have been satisfied. Pictures are great, showing before and after pictures. Stories work really well. So those could be, testimonials in the form of a story, or this is where Joe was, then, and here's where he's come to now, and here's how it happened. And you can do it with audio, video. Video is incredibly powerful, as I'm sure you know, and it does all of the things. I mean, it sort of encompasses a lot of different media. You get to see, you get to hear, you get people's attention. But any way that you can provide proof, it helps the pendulum start to swing back the other way. It's like, oh, well, because all the questions you're asking in your head, like, does this really work, and is it really worth the money? Well, here's what it did for this person or that person, or here's the before and after picture. Well, yeah, hey, this really does work. Okay, I'm not going to be a fool if I do this. I might be a really happy buyer. So once you do that and you accomplish that with proof, what you want to do is remove the obstacles to buying, because there's still some doubt here. And it's like, well, what if it doesn't work though? What if I spend the $100 for this anti-aging product and it turns out to be, like other things I've bought and I've wasted my money? And so what you want to do, because remember, this is direct response and we're trying to get somebody to do something. We may not be trying to get them to buy it. We may be trying to get them to make an inquiry for more information. We may be getting them to ask for a sample. We may be asking them to make a trial purchase. But whatever it is, we want to remove the obstacle and make it super easy. There's nothing worse than somebody that wants to do something but doesn't know how. And I'm sure you've experienced that. It's like, you're looking at the thing all over, and whether it's online or a piece of paper, and going, well, what do I do? Where's the number? Where's the next thing I do? And it's shocking how often that next thing is missing. And so the way that you remove obstacles to buying is you offer a guarantee. You don't like the product, we'll give you your money back, no questions asked. That removes all the risk for the buyer. And interestingly, this is something we'll talk about later when we talk about sales letters, but one of the things that you'll see a lot in a sales letter is a guarantee that says, say, for example, it says, 100% no risk guarantee. If you're not satisfied for any reason within 30 days, simply call 1-800-XYZ and we'll refund your money, no questions asked. So it's a funny thing, if you think about it, to have in a sales letter. Why would you put the phone number for returns in the letter when somebody hasn't purchased yet? Because what you're telling them is it's really easy. There's a toll-free number you call, and the thing is done. And so what happens for them psychologically is they understand that you mean it. So anything that you can do to let people know that, to remove the risk. Maybe there's a trial period. Use it for 30 days. If you don't think, it's done what you want it to do and this hasn't changed, send it back or just call us. Don't even send it back. Well, some people say, send us the empty bottle. No problem. We'll refund your money. Maybe there's no money down. Magazines use that all the time. I'm sure you've seen it. And then you just send this card back and we'll start your subscription, and now they're going to bill you. Maybe there's an introductory price. And that, an introductory price with a date is always a great offer. Buy it by the 15th and you can get it for half off. Next week it's going to cost twice as much. Or this is our price till the end of the month, or, whatever it is. Liberal return policy, covered that in guarantee. Excuse me, the other thing, in some products it's relevant and some isn't, is to give people a sample. Let them see it, touch it, feel it for themselves. Some things really lend themselves to that, and you can combine these ideas. It can be a sample with no money down. We'll give you a sample, and if you don't like it, let us know. If you don't let us know, we're going to bill you. So there's all kinds of ways to remove obstacles and make it easier for people to say yes. And that's once you've gone to all the trouble to put together a compelling argument and, hit what hurts, and then provide a solution, and then give them proof about why it works. You want to just make it as easy as you possibly can. If they've gone that far, they're really interested. You want to make it easy for them to, push the yes button. So I've actually got a little ahead of myself, but I covered this, but we'll just go over it real quick. So guarantees, we all need to rationalize the purchase. Gee, I bought this kind of thing before. I don't know. I bought this hair growth product, and I bought this, and I tried that, and none of it worked. Why should I try this? So we tell them, well, you try this because it's got this ingredient that nobody's ever had before. So you haven't tried this kind of thing. Guarantees build trust. They make people unafraid to do business with you because they believe that you believe in what you're offering. It also gives the object or the item or the product or the service more credibility, because if you offer such a good guarantee, it must really work. The other thing about a guarantee is it enters the realm of agreement as opposed to a sale. Because remember, nobody wants to be sold and nobody wants to sell. We want to have solutions, problems, and provide solutions. And so if we're agreeing on something, it's a bit more of a handshake, and it doesn't feel so pressured or so hypey. We're just saying, hey, listen, try this out. If you don't like it, no problem. The guarantee also it dispels the negative feelings that can crop up. Things like, and I've mentioned this too, I've heard it all before. I can't spend money on this. What if it doesn't work? If it's so great, how come I haven't heard about it before? So you want to build trust, and you want to remove the risk. And one thing that I want to point out to you is often as a copywriter, especially if you're a freelance copywriter and you're writing for clients, you're often the one making these decisions or making these suggestions. So don't assume that your client has these ideas in mind. I mean, they may have used some of them before, they may not, they may be new to the market. You don't know what it is, but always ask. So, what kind of guarantee are you offering, or what kind of guarantee can we offer? Or do you know if you do this, it's going to build trust? And you always wear a couple of hats when you're working as a freelance copywriter, and the more that you can provide some marketing input or make suggestions, the more valuable you become, because that can be really, really helpful for people. So, and in letters, and I'm sure you've seen this, and it's used sometimes in long-form web copy too, is we reinforce things in the PS. And often what people will say is that the headline in the PS should tell the whole story. Because think about how you read a letter, particularly, I think this is true online too, but with a letter, what do? You look at it, you look at the headline, you scan it, you turn it over to see the end. And so people will read the PS before they read the body copy. And so when you're writing any kind of longer piece, what you really want to do is make sure that the headline and the subheads right through to the PS tell the whole story. And so the subheads, will have will fill in the information. So if I read the headline and the subheads and the PS, I'd have pretty much the bones of the story. What can happen then is I can get in at any point that I'm interested. Maybe the third subhead speaks to me, and I start reading there. Well, if what I read in that paragraph grabs me, chances are good I'm going to go back and read the entire piece. And so you want to give people a lot of chances to get in. And think about it in terms of web copy, and especially long-page web copy. I mean, how do you read it? Do you just sit down and read it all through, or do you read something, just the headline to see if you're interested, and then you start to scroll down maybe to see how long it is, how much of a time investment it is, and what catches your eye along the way? Maybe you go through and you read the testimonials first, and you go, oh, that's interesting. These people think that. Everyone does something a little different, but you probably have a pattern, and it probably doesn't include beginning at the top and just reading through to the bottom without skimming around at some point. So you want to take advantage of that as the writer. You don't always get to influence the design, but it's always good if you can to see your copy in the designed format, because some really interesting things can happen where things get broken up to where you lose the meaning of the content. Sometimes they're funny or goofy, and sometimes they may be funny or goofy, but they don't get the results. And so it's always a good thing to, if you can influence the design or the layout, to at least see it once it's done, so you can have any kind of input. But it's really important to grasp this concept that people don't read things straight through, and that you want to devise, and so you're sort of designing in the copy a way for people to get in at any point and understand what the proposition is. And so here's some things you can ask, once you read it over, and you let the piece sit and marinate, is what I like to think of it doing, so you can come back to it with fresh eyes. And I'm going to make a suggestion here that when you do come back with fresh eyes, you read your piece all the way through, and it's really hard to do because your compunction is to go through and start editing. But once you start editing, you're no longer an unbiased reader, which you never really quite are, but you are much more so if you promise yourself you won't tinker with it until you do a first read through. And when you read through a second time, I promise you'll stumble in the same places and see the same things. In fact, when you do that, it's a good indicator that they need to be fixed or changed. But ask yourself, did I make a compelling case? Do I read through it? Do I find it, pulling me through and, moving me forward? Did I provide genuine value or explain the genuine value? Did I illustrate clearly in certain terms how the product solves their problem? And did I make them feel the pain of the problem first? And I'm going to be hitting you over the head with this a lot, so I guess get used to it. And did I tell them about the features and provide benefits, clear benefits for all of the features? And so those are the key things that you want to make sure that the copy has. Whatever else it does, have you hit those points? Because if you have, and remember, I said you will improve over time, and your copy will get sharper and sharper and sharper. But if you've hit those points, at least you've created a piece that's serviceable. And so once you have a draft, and that process is sometimes different for every piece, and sometimes it's something that'll happen really quickly, and sometimes it will take more time. You want to let it sit. You really need to let it sit. And again, if you're writing copy for other people and they're on a deadline, I encourage you to buy yourself some time and explain to them that something that has a little more time is going to be a better finished product, because you'll find, I do anyway, that I can go back and do about 4 passes of edits. And they're not all time consuming, and I don't see everything every time, but I'll edit something and change it, and then I'll go back and look at it and I'll say, I keep getting hung up in this one place. What can I do to fix it? And once you've done that 2 or 3 times with the same piece and you've had a chance to let it sit, it's pretty remarkable what the piece is, 4 days or a week later compared to what it was, day one. So once you've read it through, go ahead and give it edits. I mean, this may seem like an obvious point, but it's one that I forget still sometimes. Make a copy of everything. Don't edit inside the original piece. It's really good to have all the drafts. You may never go back to them. You may never compare them, but you may cut something out that you regret, or you find you need later, or you need in a second piece, and you've lost it, and you can get very frustrated by that. So just do your edits in a second draft. I mean, in an actual copy. And I've covered all these points, but I think the key thing to remember with editing, and copy editing and editing the piece are a different thing. Copy editing is, checking for, proper grammar and for typographical errors and that sort of thing. Editing the piece will be editing it down to how it's going to read finally. And be really ruthless. There's so often, it's so much easier to say more than it is to say less. And, as you get better and better at editing your own copy, you'll find that there are just entire phrases and sometimes entire sentences or paragraphs that can be removed, and that the piece just reads a lot tighter and a lot crisper. And it can be hard to see it, particularly in your own things at first, but you'll get better and better about it. And so, even practice, even if you think the thing is great, go through and say, what could I take out? Would it still read the same if this was gone? And it's not necessarily the descriptive pieces, but you'll see it's much easier to say more than it is to say less. It goes for speaking too. So here are some more copy keys. Do your sentences flow one to the next. And this is a really important point, because you'll see this a lot in copy, is that people get sidetracked by ideas. So they describe something, and then they go off to describe something else, and then they come back to the original point. And it's a lot of work for your reader. and it's a lot of effort for them to stay involved. And so you want to make sure that everything is in service to the next thing. And you, believe me, you don't have to belabor this overly much. It's not. I can't think of what I want to say. It's not sort of brain surgery, I guess, for lack of a better thing, but you do need to make sure that it has flow. And so, the reason I say it's not brain surgery is I don't want to make you so paranoid that you think you can't, that you just can't write something. And remember that, you know, often a first draft is a brain dump. It doesn't need to be perfect. And in fact, it's better if it isn't. It's better if you just get it out there and, you know, go back first with a, you know, chainsaw, and then you can get down to the, you know, the fine surgery knife later. And are the concepts in the correct order so that they're easy to understand? I mean, did you lay it out so you described their pain, solved their pain, and then came up with the solution? There's the formula called problem, agitate, solution, and that's what we're talking about here. Lay out the problem, stir up the problem a little bit, provide a solution. And does every single word move the reader forward and serve the copy? And again, this will change. And you'll get better at it. And even after you've been doing it a long time, some things will just stump you. You know, sometimes you think, you know, gee, I thought I was better than this. Why isn't this is it not coming easily? But you just keep at it, and you'll find that, you know, if you're willing to be patient and go through some iterations, you know, it will improve. But just, you know, have some questions to ask yourself so that you have sort of a litmus test for the piece. Look for the word that, or so that. It often is followed by passive language, and is a good indicator that sentence or phrase could probably change. And you want to take out passive language. You don't want to write in the future. Things read in much more crisply and are more exciting if you write in the present tense. And short sentences are better. Simple language is always better. You know, describing something is really great. You know, being able to say, you know, he moved quickly down the hall. It's much better to say, you know, he ran down the hall like his hair was on fire. You know, be descriptive. Give people a visual, but keep things concise. Keep things short. It's much easier to read short sentences. It's nice to have a lot of white space. You know, keep it concise, and that's why you want to, you know, edit out things that you may love but don't serve the end purpose. And just a couple more things before we wrap up and talk about what's coming next. You know, editing is often more work than writing. Refining it into the piece that you really want to be may take you longer than doing that original brain dump, and that's okay. You know, understand that, you know, what makes something work. What makes something work well is paring it down to its essence so that it really delivers the message, but it does it crisply and cleanly. You know, don't get married to clever and fall in love with your ideas. It's really, really hard to do. I mean, I had something that I just wrote last week, and I loved this one paragraph. I just loved what it said, but it really didn't fit, and I kept knowing that as I went back. I knew it didn't fit, but I just couldn't cut it out because I thought it was such a nice descriptive piece, and I loved the idea, and I loved how I had expressed it, and it took me like 4 passes to finally say, okay, just cut it out. It doesn't serve the audience. It doesn't serve the piece. And it can be, you know, I referred to it earlier as, you know, as kill your darlings, and sometimes you just have to do it. And so be really aware of that. You know, sometimes it can be really brilliant, but it just doesn't fit. And you'll find, and I've said this several times, but I think it's an important point, that as you read through, something keeps catching you, and it seems right, and it works, and it's grammatically correct, but you just keep stopping there. That means, you know, it needs to be changed, or it's in the wrong order, or it needs to be rewritten, or it needs to be gotten rid of. So, you know, be critical. Don't be overly critical, but play a little bit and see, you know, oh, well, what would it be like if I took this out? How would it read? And get input. One of the best things, as I said in the beginning of this session, one of the best things about this course is getting input. I mean, you won't learn anything more quickly or have it stay with you better than to actually work on something, get some feedback from me, and I'll tell you why something works or doesn't work, and then you change it and improve it. And the great thing is, once you change it or improve it, you've up-leveled your skills, and they stay that way. It's not to say, the next piece of copy you write will be, perfect and brilliant. I don't think any of them are ever perfect or brilliant at first, but it'll improve you really, really quickly. You'll see. I'll be curious to hear what you have to say about that at the end of the 6 weeks. I think it's a really fun process. So your writing will improve. I promise you that if you stay at it. Just focus on one area at a time. Don't feel overwhelmed. I've given you a lot today. Future sessions will be more focused on one topic, but I wanted to give you sort of a big picture overview of some of the concepts. And we will focus on, on things. I know a lot of people are interested in web copy. We are going to focus just on web copy and talk about that. And again, remember the formula of emulating pieces that you like, keeping a swipe file, and literally writing things out. Sitting down and writing them out by hand. It's kind of laborious, but everyone that does it is pretty surprised by how successful the process is. Be sure you've joined the Facebook group. So let's just talk logistics here for a sec. So every week there's an assignment. You can post the assignments to Facebook. I will download them from Facebook, work on them, and upload them back to you. And so, yes, other people can read them. And, if for some reason you have something that you're working on that's really private and you don't want anyone to see it, you can email it to me. It's really helpful if everyone can see everyone's work. We don't need to critique everybody's work, but it really helps you move the thought process along to see what they're writing and maybe how I'm critiquing it. So if you're willing to do that in public, I think it really helps everybody. And again, if you've got something sensitive, email me at amy@sanfranciscoschoolofcopywriting.com. So every week I will give you an assignment, but I want to reiterate, if you have something that you're working on, whether it's your own website, a piece of copy for a client, maybe a piece of a sales letter you're writing to promote yourself or your business, or a website you're writing, well, let's work on that. I think it's much more relevant and real for you, and you'll get more benefit out of it, and you'll actually come away with something that's a finished piece. So I'm more than happy to do that. If not, and you don't have something like that, and you might as we move through the course, and we can work on those, over the course of time. But if not, I'd like you to go with the anti-aging concept, and you can put it in whatever kind of piece you want. I'm not going to put any boundaries on what it is you write about anti-aging. It could be a landing page, which is typically a 350 to 500 word piece that has a headline, a few bullets, an opt-in offer, and then some explainer copy below. That can also be bullets, do this so that, the formula we talked about earlier. You could write a longer landing page. You can make it into a sales letter. A sales letter often is adapted into web copy. It can be a sales letter for it could be a home page. So I'm going to leave that up to you. If you have questions or anything isn't clear, just reach out to me on Facebook. Just post a question. I get notified anytime there's something there, and I get on it pretty quick. And you've got my time and attention while we have the course, so take advantage of it. And I think that's it. I did say in the beginning, and I'll repeat too, we'll meet here at 11:30 every week for Q&A if you have them. If people are here, we'll stay and answer questions and go over copy bits. If nobody is here, we won't, and we'll just, I'll answer questions on Facebook, and we'll go back and forth that way. We can see how it evolves. I find it's a little different with every class, so we'll see what works for all of you. Every week we'll post the video of that week's topic along with the notes and the assignment, and then we'll use the Wednesday time to cover anything that we're working on. So does anyone have any questions? I'm going to, if I can remember how, I'm going to unmute the call. Let's see.
All attendees are muted. All attendees are unmuted.
Okay, so on the Facebook link, and you can pop a question too into the chat box. The Facebook link, David will send an invite to you. So if you haven't already had one, David will send you. You have to be invited because it's a private page. So if you haven't gotten one, David will send you one today. Anyone else? Questions? Okay, good deal. We've got a really static-y line. So if anyone has any questions or anything pops up, like I said, just reach out to me on Facebook. I'll be there, and I will be happy to answer. And I'm excited to work with you and help you improve your copy, and I'm glad you're here. That's a wrap, all y'all. Thanks.
Oh, get it. Huh? Oh, yeah.